So with those logistics out of the way, I just wanted to take a moment to set the stage for today. The theme of the summit this year is the meeting of wisdoms, and it was developed in response to the interest and request of many of you wanting an opportunity to get together and learn more from each other. So through the following days, we're offered an opportunity to listen and learn from each other across generations, across roles, across cultures, across ways of knowing. It's a pretty incredible opportunity. What we're doing is we're holding the space for Ike Hawaii and the empirical sciences to come together and meet through the lens of sustainability. In this room, we collectively recognize the need for sustainability in curriculum and in action in our communities. So in working in the summit over these next few days, we can build bridges across all 10 campuses and work to connect multiple ways of knowing so that we can all better coordinate our efforts to get students involved in sustainability, to equip our graduates in an ever complex world, and to transform our campuses into a place that really uplifts and serves our communities. So with that in mind, we're gonna start by creating an intention and space for some gratitude. So on your tables, you all have a card for an Oli Mahalo. And I'd like to ask you all to stand, please, and find the hands of your neighbors around your table. Some of you have practiced this chant already, so we'll be leading this together. And here we go. Okay, go ahead and take your seats. So that was a moment to create gratitude for each other, for ourselves, for making the time to come and do this together today. So mahalo for joining us in that. I'm now going to introduce Auntie Manulani Aluli Meyer, who's going to join us in giving some of her mo'olelo about this place, UHWO, and she'll be moderating our panel session later on today. So Auntie Manu is a scholar activist who's dedicated her life to her community. She tackles issues like education reform, food security, and prison transformation, and she writes on the topic of Native intelligence. She's currently the Director of Indigenous Education here at UHWO. So please join me in welcoming Auntie Manu.
Papa, Olohomai Kakua Pau. Are we grateful to be here? Yeah! Yes, we are. So I just want to tell you a little bit about where you are. All right? You are in beloved Kapolei. Good to see you, Noah. And Kapolei is beloved to Kapo, the elder sister of Pele. You're in a place called Kaloi, which is fascinating because when it rains a lot over here, the water gets so high that we have been known to throw sandbags to stop the water. But they've just finished making that better. So now when the water comes, it's beautiful. It all drains down. Yeah, Carthen. It's amazing. So this place is beloved to Oahu. And as I am from Mo'okapu and Hilo Paliku, I'm learning about the beauty of Ewa and the beauty of the sites. Palihua, which you heard in our welcome Oli, is the place right over here. And that is often shrouded with clouds. And then Kapolei, the Pu'u. Kapolei is the name of the Pu'u, beloved to Kapo. And the Kapapa Pui is our local I'a in Ka'iho Pala'ai, I believe, the West Loch. So that's beloved. So in this Oli, we're actually going around this Ahupua'a to tell you about the beloved places. But one of my most beloved places of Kapolei is the University of Hawaii at West Oahu. We're very fortunate to have this place, and we're very fortunate to be hosting you today and tomorrow, and then for the Haumana on Saturday. So blessings for your work. We raised the sun. Who raised the sun with us today? Raise your hand. Yeah, we did the work for everybody. It was and we did. We worked, right, gang? You know, the thing about raising the sun, eala e, kalahi kahikina, it's a metaphor for raising the sun inside our own dispositions, raising our own awareness and capacity to know that we are going to transform our society to be of service to not only Hawaii, but to the world. So mahalo nui no ko ike nahe nahe, mahalo nui for being here. And Matt and Shawnee, mahalo nui. Hila mai kai.
Okay, mahalo Auntie Manu. Now I'd like to welcome up Chancellor Benham. So Chancellor Maenette Benham is going to share a little bit with us today. She is an awesome Kanaka scholar. She teaches locally, nationally, and internationally and is recognized for her work in education. So please join me in welcoming Chancellor Benham.
On behalf of the University of Hawaii at West Oahu, all of our ohana here, we are honored to have the opportunity to host the University of Hawaii Systems Sustainability Office's annual Sustainability Conference. So, aloha mai kako, aloha. I also want to give shout out to our UH West Oahu staff who will be helping you throughout the day, both Lynn and Stacy sitting on my left, your right. So mahalo, gang. So I've been reviewing your agenda. I've looked through all of your pre-conference readings, and I've been watching a lot of preparation emails going across my computer screen from Matt Lynch. And so I know that the next couple of days that you will be together, it will be an absolutely generative and informative time. And I know that because your experience is grounded on some very important principles. The first is that all the work that you are going to be doing is grounded on the wisdom of our ancestors. And you're coupling that with the critical canons of the disciplinary knowledge, the scholarly knowledge that each of you bring to this place. And the diverse skills, and the passion that you bring for the work that you do. All three of those things combined is going to make this an absolutely brilliant opportunity of learning and sharing. So as I was preparing for my welcome remarks, I thought, oh, okay, I'd come up here and do a couple of minutes. Aloha, have a great time, good to have you here, see you later, right? I thought that's all I would do until I looked at the schedule and I saw that Matt had given me 20 minutes. I won't take 20 minutes because I know you want to get into the day, but I really thought I should say something a little bit more substantive, so I prepared some thoughts for you. And as I was preparing those thoughts for you, there was a greeting from Ni'ihau, from my ohana on Ni'ihau that kept coming into my mind. And that greeting is, Pehea ko aina. Pehea ko aina. How's your place? How's your land? How's your earth? Dr. Ipo Wong, who is the director of Kawaihualani Center for Hawaiian Language at UHWO, where some of you know I just came from, at a gathering of people similar to you, of scholars, students, and practitioners. We gathered at Kapapalo'i o Kanewai on Manoa's campus, and the people in that room, we came together to reaffirm our deep kuleana for preparing future leaders through our educational programs to ensure the abundance of our place. And she reminded all of us who were there that many times on Ni'ihau and Kauai, when family members and community members see each other, they say, Pehea ko aina. How is your place? How is your land? How is your earth? Not, Pehea oi, how are you? Pehea oko, how are you? How's your family? How's everybody on your side? But pehea ko aina. Think about that. Pehea ko aina. How brilliant is this one greeting? This greeting is the quintessential ontological expression that defines the core of our being. Our very existence in this world is dependent on our linkage to this place, to this aina. Our relationship to this pai aina, it is the cordage that links us. Kanaka aina. Kanaka aina. This kuleana speaks to the importance of what each of you do every day. Hence, the work of this gathering over the next 2 days. So I want to acknowledge the planners of this conference. Spot on, folks, absolutely spot on. From the beginning, from your beginning time here with your wisdom panel, who all, I believe, understand the importance of this concept of kanaka aina. So Matt, good on you. I know that over the next couple of days, you will, what this panel will remind you to do. I wish they were here so I can actually say this to them, remind them, right, when they come. I want you to all remember, "I ulu no ka la'aue ki kumu." You need to tell them that they need to take you back to the roots. They need to take you back to the foundation of all of our teachers, to learn from them what we need to do today. And I know that through this wisdom panel and through the next 48 hours that you'll be spending together, you will deepen that knowledge through the work that you do with your hands, with your hearts, with your collective intellect. You know, of all the lessons that I've learned from my grandparents, through the stories that they taught me, through their life stories, their life experiences, the gift of aloha aina, the gift of this place, of our home that gives to us every single day, is the gift and the lesson that means the most to me. Because it is in this place, this pai aina, in our home, where we experience the spiritual, the physical, the intellectual, and the ecological growth of ourselves, our families, and our communities. It's this place, Hawaii, which is pedagogical because it is our greatest teacher. I Hawaii no na Hawaii ika aina. There is reciprocity between this land and each of us. And inasmuch as we, over time, leave a very small footprint, the abundance, the sheer abundance of this pai'aina will in turn shape, define, and sustain us all. I'm confident that you will each challenge yourself and each other to learn, to engage, to discover, to innovate, to problem solve over the next 2 days. And I wish for every one of you the abundant gift of aloha aina. No laila, e leu mai kako, you all, time to step up. Mahalo nui lo ya oko pakahia pau. Mahalo, you all have a wonderful time. Thank you.
Thank you, Maenette, and thank you, Manu. Good morning, everybody. Aloha. Welcome back. You have to excuse me. I surprised myself this morning sitting there listening to the Mahalo Oli first, and then to Manu's welcome. And I got this weird tingling feeling, sort of, it just kind of comes in waves. It's coming again now. I was like, oh, what is that? I think I'm feeling something. It feels really scary. It was very surprising. So bear with me. It really is an honor and a privilege to be in this position and to work with incredible people like yourselves, and to create these kinds of spaces, to have these important and not always easy conversations. We've learned a lot. Hands up if you arrived yesterday. Yeah? And how's the billion-star hotel we're staying at? Pretty mean. We're up at Camp Palehua at the top of Makakilo. It's about a 20-minute drive past the gate, 15-minute drive past the gate at the top of the subdivision. So we were already learning lessons together. We were already experiencing a meeting of wisdoms. We had a Socratic circle last night, and there was some really rich, sometimes heated discussions exploring what does this mean? What do we mean by the meeting of wisdoms? And there's so much in there, you know? We learned and are continuing to learn what it means to live in community. We're learning that building community is sometimes messy, that sometimes your bunkmates have different sleeping habits or patterns, different sleeping cycles, and we're also learning to surrender and flow with. And incredibly enough, despite the fact that we started 20 minutes late, we were right back on time with our agenda. Which is incredible what happens when you surrender and flow with. So welcome back. I'm going to take some time this morning to deliver an update from where we've come from, not just in the last 12 months, but because it's actually been 5 years. This is the 5th annual summit. We started right here. I'm going to pause, take a moment, and reflect with all of you on exactly how far we've come together on that journey. I think it's important to recognize that. And then I'm going to share a little bit to set us up for the course of the next couple of days, which will really set the tone and give us really valuable information for the work that we do together over the next 11 months. This summit really is a working session. You can tell by some of the dark circles under people's eyes that it is hard work. It was a long day for a lot of us yesterday. It'll be a long day again today. But it's less about getting together and having fun. That's obviously a key part of it. But it's the crux of this exercise annually is to get together, roll up our sleeves, and go to work. So I just want to acknowledge all of you for the commitment that you've taken. I know how stretched thin we all are. It seems to be an ever-escalating condition of the modern world, that we seem to be increasingly busier and busier. And so it can be really difficult. I fully recognize the commitment and the sacrifice many of you have made to take a pause out of your very busy schedules and your already overloaded work plate to come together. So since you're here, let's give yourself fully into that gift and to the fullest extent possible. The rest of the world will still be there, a day and a half from now. So let's just be here and be present with each other for the next couple of days. So none of this would be possible without the generous support of our sponsors, the Hawaiian Electric Companies and Johnson Controls. Would the representatives from these two companies please stand so that we can recognize you? Don't be shy, I know you're here. Thank you. Right on. None of this literally would be possible without their support. So they're key partners in all of this. And we have additional support from Hawaii Energy, from Train Building Advantage, and from the Aloha Plus Challenge and Hawaii Green Growth, the backbone organization that coordinates all of that work. I'll share a little bit more information about that in just a moment. Over the next 3 days, our goals together are, it's not a meeting of wisdoms if you're not learning from each other, so that's number one. Number two is to continue to explore, what does this mean? I mean, is it just about ancestral knowledge and modern sciences? Or could it also be about learning something from someone that you wouldn't normally talk to? If you think about our community as a university, on each campus we have literally different tribes. Faculty speaks a very different language from operations, right? And administration speaks an entirely different language altogether. And students, well, we got to keep up really hard, work really hard to keep up with the language that you guys speak. So you literally have at least four different tribes on each campus community. And then when you get all the different campus communities together in the same room, chaos can ensue. But I'd also like to suggest that wherever you're rubbing up against a friction point and some discomfort, it's a clear signal that that's a leverage point for you. So let's expand this exploration of the meeting of wisdoms. What else could that look like, right? And really, I would invite all of you to try to challenge yourself to understand a different perspective, especially given the state of the world currently and the increasing polarization and the increased shouting from all these different sides. We really need to be building bridges. So that can start right here in this room. Last year when I set up the room, I think I shared a very simple tool that we could practice, and that was to use and instead of but. This year I'm going to share two more tools with you to keep in mind. One is to practice listening more and speaking less. My grandma used to tell me, you got 2 ears, 2 eyes, 1 mouth. You should be used in that proportion. And also to lean into and embrace the feeling of being uncomfortable and challenged. I've already felt those this morning, so come join me. So the big questions that we've been working with through the system-wide sustainability strategy have not changed. How can we create global citizens that are informed, engaged, and equipped with the skills, tools, knowledge, experiences, resources to help us solve the challenges that all of our communities face. And I mean communities in the most broad sense of the word, right? There are communities here, communities in our campus, our communities in our neighborhoods that we go back to. We can also think of communities in the natural world, right? In the schools of fish, the flocks of birds. We can think of all the different tribes that are out there as well. And how are we, as an institution, as a university, really helping all of our communities to rise to those challenges? The challenges that I'm referring to, the challenges that are directly posed to us through climate change impacts that are increasingly escalating, and for some communities are actually already being felt. Hokulea is on her way back, and in a few short months, she will have completed her circumnavigation of the world. And this is not an insignificant feat. This moment will leave a mark on this entire generation of leadership. And I don't know that we fully understand what that's going to look like or what the implications of that are. And so for us, as an educational institution, as a knowledge enterprise, how will education be different for Hokulea having sailed? If you remember, Nainoa Thompson actually asked that question to a group of faculty gathered at Honolulu Community College before Hokulea even set sail, 2011, 2012. And think about that. That's a pretty radical question. That is an existential question for our institution. Let me take you back to 2013 in this very room. And this was the first annual Sustainability in Higher Education Summit. Some of you in here may have actually been in the room at that point. Hands up if you were. Yes. All right, amazing. I had a little more hair then, and a lot less of the whites that are coming in 5 long, short years ago. And at that gathering, we presented a draft sustainability policy to the gathered assembly. So about 150 people provided really detailed input over a draft sustainability policy. What works about this? What's good? What's not? What's in here that shouldn't be? What's not in here that should? And that event really provided the basis for the institutional commitment to sustainability that we experience today. The Students' Sustainability Forum was first launched in 2013. I think at least one of the students in this photo is actually an employee and works at this campus now. Out of this intense student passion and interest in sustainability issues, this gathering occurred to say, well, what are we as students going to do about it? And they formed the Student Sustainability Coalition of Hawaii. Now, this group has been instrumental because when students speak and when students coordinate and speak collectively, the world listens. It's really incredible. Let me explain. So back to 2013, we are getting input on our draft sustainability policy, and one of the clauses in the sustainability policy talks about the need to dedicate resources to the coordination, staffing, measuring, monitoring, and reporting of our sustainability initiatives. It's really difficult to manage what you're not measuring, right? So at that time, there was one sustainability coordinator here, not me, and I was just helping as your friendly neighborhood facilitator for our working session. Now we have a budding team, and I'd like to introduce them to you. Krista Heiser has been serving as our, please stand up. And if you can remain standing, I'll call everyone else's names up and introduce them. We can acknowledge everybody together. Miles Topping is our Director of Energy Management. Shawnee Fowler, or as we call her, Mama Shawnee, is our Operations Manager. Nicole Chatterson, you met this morning, our Student Sustainability Coordinator in the back. Jessica Sevilla. Jess, are you in the room? There she is. They're Student Sustainability Fellow. Elia Bruno and Eric Elkman are fellows with the Sustainability Office. And Berlitz, are you in the room, Mirna? There you are. LCC, Student Sustainability Coordinator. So thank you, please be seated. From little things, big things can grow. And I really think it's amazing. The sustainability councils, which span system-wide, 2 councils that are interconnected, one focused more on curriculum coordination, one on operations, planning, facilities, and maintenance. They meet about quarterly. If you're a member on one of those councils, the system-wide sustainability councils, please stand up. I see a few of you in the room. Thank you. And then in 2014, we moved the summit out to Windward Community College. The Student Sustainability Coalition of Hawaii managed to coordinate student testimony statewide for a Board of Regents meeting that was held in Kauai. And basically, the students went in front of the Board of Regents and with a whole bunch of signatures and basically said, listen, this is important to us. We need to be incorporating and integrating sustainability into the University of Hawaii somehow. And the Board of Regents unanimously agreed to amend their policy for the first time in almost 10 years, about a decade and a half, to specifically articulate sustainability as an institutional priority. And to put that into perspective, the time that they did that before to amend their policy was to articulate Native Hawaiian studies and becoming a model indigenous serving institution as an institutional priority. So about 10, 15 years earlier. That does not happen lightly. The Board of Regents do not change their policy lightly. We also began work on our strategic energy management strategy, and we brought in Wendell Braze from UC Irvine, which is respected nationally for their work in energy performance, and we've continued that relationship to this day. He's still a close friend and ally. In 2015, with a swipe of his finger, President Lassner formalized the executive sustainability policy that we started work on in 2013. It's 2 years to get that. After that summit in 2013, we then went back to the campuses and through an online form, we're able to get hundreds more people's input onto that draft policy. So literally, there have been hundreds of people across all 10 campuses that have had a hand in this, and it's gone through multiple iterations. When I was formally hired at the university, it went through at least 19 additional drafts. And some of the feedback that we got was, you know, this document kind of reads like something that's been written by hundreds of people. And we're like, it's kind of the point. EP 4.202 essentially offers a guiding framework for sustainability at the university in 5 key areas. Cultural connections, which was by far loud and clear what we heard at that first summit. This is something that is unique to UH and needs to be somehow expressed in how we integrate sustainability into what we do. Also operations, how we run our facilities, teaching and learning, research and scholarship, and campus and community engagement. So 5 overarching areas. 2016, this time last year, we met at the East-West Center, and using that guiding framework for implementation of sustainability, campuses actually went back, spent a year to create draft campus sustainability plans, and then presented that to each other at last year's summit. You can see that institutional timeframes take time. It took 2 years to get a policy into place. So we presented the draft plans last year. You probably haven't heard much from our office about what happens next with those. There are system-wide efforts in place to really figure out an integrated academic and facilities type of plan for all of our campus together. So those draft plans are going to be really helpful to provide campus-level, boots-on-the-ground input as to what sustainability opportunities might be present at the campus. Then, in February of 2016, before last year's summit, our president had an epiphany. He hangs out with Nainoa Thompson a lot, and we would sometimes get emails at 1 a.m. in the morning, so I've been talking to Nainoa again, and my mind is blown again, and maybe we should be doing this, and I think we should be doing this. One of those emails was basically, you know, hearing a lot of this, what sounds like the same concepts and principles being talked about in different circles. So there's the Malama Honua guys, there's the Ike Hawaii guys, there's the sustainability guys, there's the sensor guys. You guys are all talking about things maybe in different ways, but they sound like there's resonances to be realized from there. And so you convened a gathering out at UHWO, and we were introduced to a new word in the Hawaiian lexicon by Dr. Larry Kimura, this word mawo. And I kid you not, when he introduced us to this word, the ground shook. There was literally an earthquake. I thought it was something with the HVAC. No, the ground shook. Mawo meaning the perpetuation of well-being, right? Moving away from survivability and towards thrivability. In fall, we were able to launch the Office of Energy Management, which plays a similar coordination role, and right now is focused on getting better handle on our energy data so that we can manage it more effectively. So an awful lot of work. We've really come a long way together. And let's just pause and acknowledge that and acknowledge each other with a round of applause for the road we've traveled. So one of the things that we've heard loud and clear is that the campuses, at the campus level, additional capacity is needed to support sustainability efforts, right? A day in the life of the sustainability coordinator is really interesting. You go from a faculty meeting to an operations meeting to a student meeting. We get to meet with all the tribes in a single day. And all of the people in those tribes are doing the very best they can with what they have, and a coordinator can provide that little bit of extra bandwidth so that now we can literally start to talk to each other. And organize more effectively. So the reason why I have Kupu's logo up here is because we're currently talking with Kupu to develop what essentially would be a full-time position that would be a sustainability coordinator type position at the campus level, really modeled after Kupu's year of service. So it's sort of like a service learning internship. There's a stipend that's paid, and at the end of the year of service, there's actually a cash award to support that graduate to pursue additional studies. So it's a really nice win-win all around. We'll be coming out, we'll be speaking with your campus leadership and with your sustainability committees with more information after this summit. I just wanted to plant the seed and let you know that we are working on getting additional capacity at the campus level so that we can continue to work together more effectively. In the fall, Krista and I spent our time visiting as many campuses as we could. It was really exciting to see all the amazing, inspirational, and innovative work underway by faculty to utilize sustainability as a platform to enhance interdisciplinary collaboration, active learning pedagogies, and place-based learning through the courses we teach. And we found 250 sustainability courses that are currently taught across the UH ecosystem, and many more in the pipeline that are being figured out. You can actually go to our website It's the only place that they're listed all together. Hawaii.edu/sustainability, click on programs, and if you scroll through here, you can start to see all the different sustainability courses that are offered across all the campuses. At Manoa, you can see that it's alphabet soup, right? If you're to look in the course catalog, how are you supposed to identify all of this right now? So Manoa is actually working on a new course descriptor code, SUST, so that at a glance you can find all of the different sustainability courses across all of the different departments. Now, the students that we've been able to share this with have been really excited about the fact that it is now easier to find the courses that we're interested in. And for faculty who are teaching these courses, it's been great to see them and be able to connect with other faculty that are exploring this in their own disciplines. Really rich opportunities for that interdisciplinary exploration. At the e-poster session tomorrow, we'll highlight some of these courses that are identified by the campus committees, and I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be another first, an e-poster session / dance party, and you won't want to miss it. Faculty support, we've created an S designation handbook to help implementation of this sustainability designation so that campuses can come up with a way that is unique and appropriate to their campus culture and context to identify sustainability courses and to support each other to enhance their curriculum or to evolve their curriculum. One of the things we heard on our journeys is that, you know, if you are maintaining currency in your discipline, you are very likely already talking about sustainability somehow. So let's just make it easier to talk about and to talk about others about with this so that we can learn together. This summer, we will be working with Kapiolani Community College to host the Grand Challenges Institute. It's professional development for faculty. There are, in fact, stipends available for faculty to come and attend and learn from each other. And if you are interested in that, make sure that you connect with Krista Heiser or Bob Franco. Bob, put your hand up nice and high. And there will be more information coming out that from our office as well. For students, this fall, if you are interested in helping increase our communications capacity and helping to run our social media accounts, helping to coordinate campus events, and basically throw awesome sustainability parties, but also to do incredible sustainability work and projects in your campus. Contact myself or Ula Hassinger. And this fall, Ethnic Studies 308 is essentially service learning. So you can get service learning college credits for working as a sustainability communications with our office. Strategic energy management has continued to be a focus. Last year, we had a really intense 2-day session where we did strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threat analysis with all of as many of our operations and facilities folks that we could fit into a room, as well as our private sector partners. And that feedback has been really useful to help us craft this a strategy that will allow us to essentially realize some quick paybacks from energy efficiency projects, but also to develop large-scale energy-saving performance and other types of unique public-private partnership type of approaches that are both flexible and scalable to help us improve our energy performance. With the Miles Topping coming on board, Miles is one of these guys that he used to design, I don't even know, multi-thermal spectral imaging that detected submarines in oceans, and he's kind of like, you know, probably has a time machine in his garage. But his other gift is that he takes really complex things and makes them really simple. So here's our strategic 4. We're focusing on these 4 items to get us to our energy needs. Students bear the brunt of the cost of our utility bill, and so it's important that we are proactively addressing this. We, as you know, have a net zero energy mandate, so this is where we are in that progress. We've got a long way to go. As the mandate is written, we need to produce as much renewable energy as the entire system consumes based on 2015 benchmark year. So that's 195 gigawatt hours worth of renewable energy that we are mandated to produce. We are 1.4% of the way there. Progress. You may have heard about feasibility studies that are being done for large-scale solar PV up at the West Oahu Mauka sites. We were also looking at the entire UH portfolio, in excess of 140,000 acres worth of land. Not all of that is suitable, obviously, but at a rough calculation, somewhere between 180 to 360 acres, if it were completely covered in solar, would essentially would meet our needs. If the 50 megs potential comes online, just to give you some reference, that would probably bring us about 40% of the way there. So we're obviously, Miles has a lot of work ahead of him. If you are interested to learn more about what else we've been up to, our annual report will be available for download shortly, featuring a highlight reel of our presentation to the Board of Regents, where we accidentally showed up in matching outfits. Go figure. And all of this happens within a broader context of the statewide sustainability efforts that are also underway. The Aloha Plus Challenge is three things. One, it's a joint political commitment that is unanimously endorsed by the Office of the Governor, by all 4 county mayors, and the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. This is unique globally. I want you to know our legislature accepts climate change science. And we have legislators there that understand that our communities are already being impacted. This is a good thing. This places us in a leading position. Now, we're not trying to lead, we're just trying to solve our challenges in our island communities. But we're getting global attention because the rest of the world has also recognized through the Sustainable Development Goals framework that we need to do things differently if we're going to be able to solve and equip our communities to rise to this challenge. The second thing the Aloha Plus Challenge is a statewide network, statewide multi-sector network of public, private sector, and community groups that are really working at all levels, from on-the-ground implementation all the way up to policy level on implementation. What do we need to actually do in order to rise to these challenges? 6 interrelated target areas of focus, and that's the third thing that Aloha Plus Challenge is the shared framework for tracking and measuring progress. You can actually see the state sustainability dashboard at that website, dashboard.hawaii.gov. And we're tracking our progress in clean energy, natural resource management, waste reduction, smart sustainable communities, local food, and green workforce and education. Now this year, we have just actually launched the statewide process to determine what our targets, goals, and metrics are for green workforce and education. UH obviously has a leading role to play in that discussion. This is our opportunity to shape the state's 2030 goals in what we're going to do with green workforce and education. And the big question this afternoon, students will be involved in a 3-hour working session exploring the big question of how are we educating and preparing ourselves and our workforce to address climate change impacts to Hawaii. Do we even know how climate change will impact our workforce, our futures? What are we already doing and what needs to be done to educate and prepare ourselves to address these impacts? And students are going to spend 3 hours to give detailed feedback that will go directly to help shape the state's 2030 green workforce and education goals. That's exciting. So, brings us back to where we started. Hokulea coming home in a few months, and that big question we can now start to answer. Just think about how far we've come from 2013 till today, and how we can now start to answer that question of how education will be different for Hokulea having sailed. UH finds itself right now with a significant opportunity to capitalize on our unique location and rich cultural heritage to offer world-class studies and experience in all aspects of sustainability. And it's not going to be done with one person. It's going to take all of us doing what we can with what we have, where we're at, and sharing and working together. So thank you again for your time this morning. Thank you all again for your hard work, and we look forward to working with you over the next year. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Mahalo, Matt. Aloha mai ka koa pau. We have quite an amazing group and special group of panelists this morning. So what I'd like to do is introduce them to everyone, and then let's get this started. All right. But before we go on, I want to say that my beloved mentor and friend, Kukui Mauna Kea Fourth, is in the house. So, eo. Aloha mai, kaua, aloha mai. Rosie Alegado is a Kamehameha School's graduate who studied abroad and returned home as one of a cluster of 7 faculty hired as a result of the University of Hawaii at Manoa a few years ago. She's, by the way, all of their biographies are just beautifully rendered in the website, so please dive in. We have truncated it for the purpose of getting their ideas out. But their bios, Rosie's bio, and everyone's bio is in the website. She studies microbiology. Is that microbiology? It says microbiology, community dynamics, and established the Alegado lab to pioneer the modeling of microbial processes underlying indigenous native Hawaiian sustainability practices. Welcome, Rosie. Pauline Chinn is a professor in curriculum studies in the College of Education, University of Hawaii at Manoa. Her work on Malama I Ka'aina at the College of Education centers on science education relevant to Hawaii's unique ecosystems and cultural diversity, and connects students and teachers to their unique place. She is an inspiration to all of us in the science education and in indigenous epistemology field. Mahalo, Pauline. Aurora Viani-Kagawa is a PhD student in the geography department at UH Manoa, studying how processes of plant invasion and ecological restoration shape hydrological processes in native dry to mesic forests of Hawaii. Aurora works to better understand how Hawaiian and Kama'aina scholars might successfully navigate undergraduate and graduate STEM programs while fulfilling kuleana to self, family, and community. Welcome, Aurora. Nice. Albie Miles is the director of UH West Oahu's new SCFS program. SCFS stands for Sustainable Community Food Systems, and he has conducted extensive research on synergies of family-based, let me see, I want to make sure I get it all. There you are, Albie. On socioeconomic and political obstacles to a more ecological, sustainable, and socially equitable food system. Albie has become an important ally for West Oahu communities, and with the help of many community partners, including Ma'o, Kamehameha Schools, Half-Bed, etc., is creating a platform to elevate ancestral knowledge to explore the meeting of wisdoms through the SCFS program here at West Oahu. Tim Botkin is the program coordinator. Welcome, Albie. Welcome. Tim Botkin is the program coordinator and instructor in the Sustainability Science Management Program at UH Maui College, and has served as judge for land use and development, and had an extensive career in public service before moving to Maui 5+ years ago. He is passionately interested in sustainable thinking and practices across organizations and communities. Tim has worked closely with Chancellor Louis Hokuana and their Campus Sustainability Committee to develop an innovative, process-based approach to sustainability planning for Maui campus. Welcome, Tim. Noah Kekuewa Lincoln was born in Kekuewa on Hawaii Island and works to revitalize traditional dryland agricultural systems in Hawaii. He is interested in combining traditional and modern knowledge of land management to evaluate social utility rather than economic contributions. And we are so going to need your help in the Kukani Local Advisory Council. So welcome, Noah. Aloha mai kaua. Welcome to our panelists, and we're going to start first with you, Pauline, and then we'll work our way through. They're going to have 5 to 7 minutes to give you their ideas, and then we're going to put 3 questions up, and they're going to talk amongst themselves. We're very fortunate to have all of you. Welcome. Pauline, you're on.
Aloha. I'd like to thank my ancestor who blew over here in a really severe El Nino. I didn't realize the significance of that until I started working with PVS in looking into intentional navigation. So thank you to that ancestor. We're looking at educating for sustainability, not just a narrow perspective of science education, and it has been my honor to work with a team that has helped me to understand place, culture, and language, because I started out as a science wonk. Okay, next one, please. The title of this NSF award, and it follows another one that brought Hawaiian language newspapers into the study of science. The question is, does transforming STEM teaching to intersect with Hawaiian culture, language, and place? This is why you see the graphic on the right. It's a much more complex understanding of place than you will find in a Western understanding. Support Native Hawaiian students' interest and learning in STEM. So this is a theory-driven design. One of the first founding ideas is from Sewell, and it's that notion of structure and agency. It goes beyond border crossing. This is really looking at the intersections of knowledge, and for that you need people who have the ability to cross-talk, crosswalk, and you need a lot of trust. The other one is Mole et al.'s Cultural Funds of Knowledge. All of us know from our own areas that to be in a discourse community, we have to have specific ways of thinking, communicating, and writing. So it is that, if we bring that to all of our groups, especially our students, then we know that to be able to teach effectively, we have to understand where students are, and we have to share where we are. The third one is the Hawaiian sense of place and well-being, and this is, those of you that have had the time to read some of the documents that were sent to us, got the idea about that feeling of place and enchantment. So the Hawaiian sense of place and well-being incorporates that sense of enchantment with akua, natural elements, self, others, and belonging to a particular place. So when we look at this diagram, and this is one that I put together because people often don't really understand how complex this is that you can see that teachers, K through 20, need to be able to intersect 3 very different domains. The domain of science, that has its own discourse, knowledge base, place, and that has its own knowledge base, and we need to be there with the people that know about it. And then, of course, Hawaiian culture, values, and language. So are we moving towards integration? Well, there are policies. And I'll just go over these briefly. If you're K-12, you know about NGSS. We look at cross-cutting concepts. Na hopena'a'o, and these are general learner outcomes that are actually grounded in metaphors, Hawaiian metaphors. And they focus on, you'll see the 6 there, they focus on well-being, security, responsibility, etc. And then one that may get unwound because we have our certain political system. Every student succeeds at, supersedes NCLB. And then if you go into the UH executive policy, we do have a system sustainability. That's worth looking into. So when you look at sustainability science, from my perspective, doing professional development, we see that it has this integrative piece. it supports systems thinking, and it develops teacher expertise and leadership. And if you've ever been in a system, I was 25 years in the DOE. Once you begin to be a little bit different, there's a lot of grass there. I was speaking to somebody today about it. Once you start sticking your head above the grass, sometimes you're kind of more of a target than a leader. So there are some of these issues here. Okay, some of you guys know about that. Okay, so going back to how do you think about this, right? So that you can get funded, right? It's called design-based research. And we look at context, design, and enactment. So I go back to the person who put the knot together, and that's Dr. Isabella Abbott, who in 2010 got me to sit down at dinner with Puakea. And from there she said, well, you know, Puakea's got these 4,000 articles that have to do with geoscience from the Hawaiian newspapers. Okay, you're in education. You guys talk to each other. And from that, you know, you get that, she's after us for something, but I don't know what it is, but you know what it is. And so that led to our first NSF project called Kahua'a'o, where Hawaiian newspapers, language, and culture are the foundation of geoscience education. So, of course, then you have to put your team together, and then you have to think about what do the assignments actually look like. So I'm not going to go over them, but as you look through it, you can see that it looks like it's all over the map, and literally it is because it is all over the map. And you have to enable people to have enough time to think about it, and if you don't get them actually out in the field to be able to develop a map for themselves, it's not going to work. You also have to employ diverse assessments, and you have to take the long view. We're finding that in your grant cycle, 2 years, it actually takes maybe 3. So anyway, outcomes, cut to the chase. How do we assess? Here's the nitty-gritty one that I promised NSF. They want to know can we come up with a survey, and this is only part of a longer survey, that shows that what we're doing with our teachers and then with the students has some kind of impact. So here are 5 questions, and it's a Likert scale. I'm highlighting Q3 and Q5 because these have to do with Hawaiian language, Hawaiian culture. Q1, service projects, Q2, STEM, Q4, working in careers related to sustainability. Okay, here's the findings. 4th graders on Kauai, only 22. I know statistically you can't do anything with this. Oahu 8th grade, and this is a school on the Leeward Coast, 8th grade. What I'd like you to look at is that there's going to be the same trend. They're all positive, and what we think is really interesting, Native Hawaiian students compared to non-Native Hawaiian students are more interested in all of these things. Service projects, STEMs, careers, but critically, they're even more interested in courses and careers related to Hawaiian studies, culture, and language. And what I'm finding is that there are a number of Hawaiian schools in Hawaiian areas that do not offer Hawaiian language and don't even have a kupuna program. So what is now our ongoing research? We're looking at now impact on students' identity, academic outcomes, interest in future learning and careers. We're looking at Na Hopena A'o as an assessment, and our early findings across the board have all been positive. We're trying to break it out by demographics, and we're trying to get higher numbers. My question is for the teachers, will your sustainability curriculum be sustained? Okay, so then just reflecting on sustainability learning competencies, let's look at the enablers, and then let's look at the barriers. And having been through the DOE system and the college of the university system, with my just a lot of time in the educational systems, I can see there's specifically enablers and their personalities too, and there's specifically barriers, and that is also personalities. So with that, I'll stop. Thank you.
Mahalo nui, Professor. Mahalo nui for that. Mahalo nui. As we proceed into the idea of what wisdom, I want you to encapsulate one idea. So I'm going to ask you to turn really quickly to your partner and encapsulate one idea with your partner very quickly. What's a highlight idea that you learned from Professor Chinn right now around design-based research? What did you learn? So that things get cemented into you. 30 seconds. Go. One idea. She did a lot. She did a lot. It was so
Yeah, something, yeah. We didn't know. Yeah.
Ooh, thank you, partner. Thank you, partner. Thank you, partner. Kahua'a'o, the very name, Pauline, signifies the practice. Kahua'a'o, the platform, the energetic field, the foundation of teaching and learning. Rosie, you're up. Have fun.
Aloha maunawi lai ka mahali e mani e malu I loko pamoa ho holopuna ike kai o ka palaua hali aloha mapua ka humana mai ha'alulu I ka leo e o ka ma'aina e mauna limahana o ka aina e a'oia. So those are my ancestors that I brought with me to you. That is our family oli. That within that kind of shares who we are. So I wanted to start off with how I teach my students, how to approach it, and the challenges that I have felt. So hoping to get a little bit more granular. So I always start off my classes by being very clear about the fact that our people are oceanographers. We came here. Our ability to come here was built upon accumulated knowledge of the currents, the winds, and all therein. Oh, sorry, kalamai. Sorry. So I always start off with saying that we are oceanographers. Next. I also say that our people are geologists in geophysics. Through our chants, our oli, our mele, our hula, we know so much about the geological features because we are people of, the circle of fire. As we've come across Oceania, we've borne witness to some amazing phenomenon. And yet, with having all of that accumulated knowledge, I want to show you the reality of what the picture is like in the School of Ocean and Earth Science and Technology. So next. Oh, there's a slide missing. That's okay. Can we go to the check? Can we go to the one right after this one, please? Kalamai. Maybe. Oh yeah. So this is the reality check. Native Hawaiians, can you go? It's like I think it's going to. Yeah. So if we see that a quarter of the population are Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, according to the 2010 census, and 1/3 of all school-age children are Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander. But in SOEST, if you can advance, go one more. It's going to animate in. These are the numbers that we're dealing with. So, Mina. Okay. So when I came in 2013 back home to the University of Hawaii, go back. It's okay. I'm just gonna talk story. When I came home, there were 3 Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders who were master's students in the entire program. There were 0 PhD students, there were 0 postdocs, and there were 0 faculty when I entered the program. And arguably, SOEST is the largest geosciences program in the nation. And that was where we were faced, okay? And so that was pretty dire. And I always question myself why that is. So if you can go back, sorry, to the previous slide to this one. Sorry about that. Go back. Yeah, oh, forward. Okay, yeah. So I always ask, what are the barriers for Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders? And I think this is germane to this conversation because we're talking about the challenges specifically as climate. And the reason why it's important is because these are the very fields, oceanography, geology, atmospheric science, that we have to build capacity in order to address the very complex problems of climate change. You know, the question of how does this field relate to my family and to my community? And how does this educational system accommodate my way of knowing? So I want to say that I think, to me, the biggest thing that we need to do is we need to change how we measure institutional success. So historically, our measure of success was survival, right? Could we make it to a new island, adapt, use our accumulated knowledge to increase our population to, you know, ho'olulahui. And I think that within that is this idea that when we talk about two knowledge systems, why is there always this constant need for validation of our ike kupuna? The very fact that we have survivors here is the peer review. That's the ultimate selection peer review. We all here, we all surviving. And also what's very clear is that as people who have persisted across small islands with limited resources, our traditions are rich with adaptation prior to Western contact. And I think that when we think about moving forward in ways of really connecting with our students, we need to stand strong in that ground of our people are survivors and adapters to dramatic changes in natural resources. Here are some challenges. How do we teach our people now to value ike kupuna if they don't know how? And what I mean by that is that we are at a kind of a generational inflection point in that we have a shrinking pool of kupuna who know this knowledge, and we have a small pool of people who are willing to take on that practice as like an everyday thing, as in beyond just community work days, as in people who are gonna grow the taro or rebuild the fish pond. And so that's an area that we can build capacity in, and then that again leads back to what I'm saying is that we need to then change how we measure institutional success. We need to think about how many people are we growing in these very specific cultural-based skill sets that can have an impact on Hawaii's resiliency. So kind of with that, that's all I kind of wanted to say, throw those kind of grenades at you of how do we teach our people to value ike kupuna if we don't know how. I want to end with like a saying by Hi'ile Kavelo, is an indigenous person interprets what they see into action. So that's how we have to, I think that's how we kind of frame forward. And you don't have to be an indigenous person to do that, but I think that's would be my kind of measure of success. So with that, I kind of, if we can move forward a little bit into this, to my personal of how I kind of try and engender this with my lab. What I try to do is, you know, you hear the word a lot, community-based research. I try and turn it, and I just do science for community. And these are my students who I bring in. You can see almost all of them are local. We work in partnership with our community partners. We start the questions where we talk to them and see what they want to know and what's interesting to them, and then we meld together our questions. And that's difficult sometimes, and it's difficult to get research to fund that, but we really feel that's the best way to go about doing it. So yeah, so I kind of left you with some dire statistics. Since coming to the university in 5 years, in the past 3.5 years, now we have a much larger kind of cadre of Native Hawaiian faculty, staff, and students. So we have, since I've come on, we have 4 Native Hawaiian faculty. We have 2 Native Hawaiian postdocs, and we have a number of Native Hawaiian master's students, and we are growing our undergraduate population because we realize that our Native Hawaiian population and local students are at the community colleges, so we've built bridges to really bring them on campus and identify them using these kinds of models that I've spoke about. So that's it. Mahalo.
Ui, mahalo. Mahalo nui, Rosie. Mahalo nui. A'ohe pau ka'ike ka halau ho'okahi. You bring that to bear in a beautiful way.
Mahalo.
May your teaching flower and your students blossom. Thank you.
Aloha mai kako. What I wanted to do in the few minutes that I have is just directly address some of the questions that Matt and the others posed to us. And those 3 questions are why is the meeting of wisdoms important to our work in the classroom and as an institution? Are we adequately equipped for our students to address the inevitable impacts of climate change in Hawaii and elsewhere? and what impedes transformational change in the University of Hawaii system, and how could we do better. So what I want to do, and please excuse me from stepping off the stage, I was sitting in front of the LED light and it started to give me a bit of a headache, so I thought I'd come down here. So first I want to start off with my own definition of what a meeting of wisdoms is constituted by, and then I'll unpack that in some detail. So the way that I think about a dialogue of wisdoms, that was informed by my major professor, a man by the name of Miguel Altieri at UC Berkeley. He's an agroecologist. I'm trained in the discipline of agricultural ecology. And he framed this dialogue of wisdoms, or a meeting of wisdoms, as the study of traditional farming systems from around the world and deriving what kinds of principles from the study of traditional food and farming systems from all societies around the world, and using that empirical knowledge to help us design farming systems for the future. So I see agroecology as really a model for the dialogue of wisdoms, where it reaches into traditional farming systems from not just Hawaii, but all places around the world where indigenous people developed elegant, long-term, sustainable farming systems that we can learn from, that we can then utilize their traditional knowledge in recreating the farming systems and the food systems of the future. So I see agroecology as this model. Another way that we see the integration of traditional ecological knowledge in the modern era is really if you look at the organic food and farming industry. That's now globally an $80 billion a year industry, for better or for worse. It was derived from practitioners and academics in this meaningful dialogue, studying what their kapuna or their elders have done as practitioners, and scientists engaging with these practitioners to study their farming systems and evaluate to what extent it is enhancing or degrading environmental quality. I think the community fisheries movement here in Hawaii is also an important example of how traditional ecological knowledge and Western empiricism is in a meaningful dialogue. So in the context of the conversation about long-term ecological sustainability, I think we are in an important position here in the University of Hawaii system where we have intact practitioner knowledge and practitioner systems that we can study that can help drive our development of new types of natural resource management systems that are going to serve us in the context of accelerating climate change. I also want to talk about not just traditional ecological knowledge in Western science, but I think it's important that in this dialogue of wisdoms, we're also talking about traditional values and the integration of traditional values with Western ethics. Because we know here in Hawaii that aloha aina and malama aina is an important cultural value. We also can approach that same valuation of the natural world through Western environmental ethics. And that's one of the things that I do in my program, is I ask my students, in addition to studying traditional farming systems and looking at it from a biophysical science perspective, I ask my students what I consider to be a very important philosophical question, which is, what moral obligations do we as human society have to the natural world? Perhaps it's a very dualistic way of thinking about it, but the Western tradition tends to think about things in a dualistic way. But it's an important philosophical question that I think is aligned with traditional values in exploring what value does nature have to us beyond its use value. Does the natural world have intrinsic value? Beyond its use value, does nature have intrinsic value? And what are the implications of the valuation of nature for its intrinsic values? And how then should human society be shaped as a result of our valuing nature in these ways? So I think that's an important element of a dialogue of wisdoms, drawing upon traditional Hawaiian values, but also looking at traditional Hawaiian values from a Western ethical perspective. As an institution, I think the University of Hawaii is in this remarkable position to engage in this dialogue, where we have intact traditional practitioners and their farming systems and their fishery systems, and we can subject them to Western empirical analysis to substantiate how well they're functioning ecologically. I don't think it detracts from traditional knowledge, but it can support the realization of how effective traditional systems have been in terms of sustainable natural resource management. So how I address this and some of these topics in my class is I teach a class on agricultural ecology. And in that class, we study traditional farming systems from different parts of the world and evaluate them in terms of what we know about how they function from the biophysical science perspective. In other classes, we look at what is the current functioning of traditional farming systems. So I draw extensively from some of Noah's work. We look at how traditional farming systems had functioned historically, and then what were some of the biophysical limits on the ability of the Hawaiian people to farm in certain parts of the Hawaiian Islands. And then I would lastly say, beyond this dialogue of wisdom that involves biophysical sciences and ethics, I think we also need to, in this meaningful dialogue, we need to be thinking about critical Hawaiian history. And the reason I mention that is because there's a key set of historical forces that fundamentally changed Hawaiian society. And I don't think that we can understand Hawaii's present and the positionality of the Hawaiian people economically, ecologically, socially, without a deep understanding of the history of Hawaii that led to the structuring of the present day. Without that information, without that knowledge on the part of our students, I feel that we are keeping them blind to a reality that fundamentally transformed the nature of Hawaiian society and environment. And so when we talk about these ideas around sustainability, we have to understand what were the historic economic and political forces that undermined a long-term sustainable society and rendered it into the position that it is today. Last couple things, unless I'm out of time. One more minute, okay? I'll just briefly say, are we adequately equipping our students for the inevitable impact of climate change in Hawaii and elsewhere? The short answer is no. I speak with my students, and some of my students are here today. I start the beginning of some of my classes and asking them, who in this class can explain to me the basic biophysical science behind climate change? And most of them are not fully prepared to do that. And I think many students are equally ill-informed in terms of the timeline for possible climate destabilization, and to what degree is their region or their state preparing for the inevitable impacts of climate change. And I think it offers a really important opportunity for us, and this gets into how the institution might be able to be modified in important ways, is we can integrate the study of traditional natural resource management and Western empirical sciences while preparing ourselves to address this real-world problem of climate destabilization. And so that's one of the projects that I've been in dialogue about with some of my colleagues, and that is a project that we call IKEI. And that is, how can we integrate research, undergraduate education, and graduate education into addressing the real-world problem of climate change adaptation and mitigation, and building a more resilient and equitable food and farming sector for Hawaii and beyond. So I will end there and turn it over to the next speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Albie. Mahalo, Albie. The concept of conflict is a really basic one in Hawaii, but what Albie's asking from all of us is to begin with truth. And when you understand the history of Hawaii, we will get to that place of liberation. And not revolution, like my friend Pulama says, evolution. It's a time of evolution, not revolution, evolution. Thanks, Pulama. All right, we've got Aurora. Aurora, e olu olu mai. Mahalo.
Aloha Albie or mahalo Albie, sorry, I'm like super nervous here. But mahalo for introducing the issue of history. And so I'm just going to give a brief introduction, and into it, I've considered the questions that we are asked. And I'll begin with a story about my great-grandmother. And I apologize if I tear up again because I'm nervous. And as a graduate student, I've worked previously in the community colleges, and I was trying to figure out what do I bring today. And I think what I can bring are these stories that maybe can help us ask questions of ourselves as we have these important conversations. But 3 generations ago, my great-grandmother, Alice Nailiulao Kalani Woodward, was a middle schooler, and she was at Central Middle School. And the story goes that she would help her classmates with math, but speaking in Hawaiian. And for this, she was punished by having to go weed out on the big Central Middle School lawn. And then we skip forward a few generations. My mother worked with UHWO for 30 years in the College of Ag, and she graduated from agronomy and soil sciences. And the legacy of UHWO is very tightly tied to sugar, and especially the College of Ag. And so it's kind of amazing today that we have these different conversations. For her, she was a soil chemist. If you sent soil to CTAR, she probably was part of the processing. But she was a Hawaiian on the weekends, and during the weekdays, she was a scientist. And so I was thinking about this, that we're having this conversation about the meeting of wisdoms and this integration. And it's taken time to come to this point where we can value Hawaiian knowledge as science. I don't know, I think we're still getting there. But yesterday I was doing fieldwork, and I was in Makaha. And we're working with the Board of Water Supply to better understand how climate change and biological invasion affects the watersheds. And so every day we meet our partners at the Makaha 7-Eleven. And yesterday I met a man named Lucas, and he asked my friend for a couple dollars, offered him a cigarette. And I was thinking about, while I spend all this time and money and trying to answer these research questions about how climate change and invasion are affecting our water resources, this guy is living day to day. And how do we talk about sustainability for 10 years or 100 years in these really nice conditions when some people are thinking about day to day, week to week, and may not even have access to these conversations? So what is my kuleana as a researcher working in this university to people like Lucas who, how do I make decisions? How do I carry out my responsibilities in a way that can positively impact him? Because for me, sustainability is not about some people being sustainable, if we can't all get there. And that's the challenge with climate change. I mean, we are in this global island Earth. So with that, I'm stoked for this discussion and excited to come up with solutions, but let's not forget history and the people who may not be here to participate. And how do we think about them as we move forward?
Ui, mahalo nui. He ike kai hohonu, Aurora. Mahalo nui. It's a kako thing. It has always been. And you remind us that this morning. Mahalo nui. Noah, e olu mai oi.
Hey, mahalo, Aurora. It's a tough one to follow. I mean, that is the essence, It's just the things that we forget, and that is the most important. So anyway, thank you for sharing. I guess I wanted to zoom out a little bit, and think when I heard the kind of meeting of the wisdoms and what, to me was the big barrier there that I feel like I see in our work. And I felt that was really we need to stop treating, indigenous knowledge kind of as low-tech. We need to get away from attaching on these superficial or kind of the generic same themes we always hear of the ahupua'a and the vaivai and these broad stroke concepts, and recognize that indigenous wisdom is actually a very high-tech in a knowledge-intensive way. And I really appreciate Matthew bringing up that question. I know I asked, how will the world be different for the Hokulea sailing the world? And I think that's one of the things that might come from it. This recognition that these really knowledge-intensive forms are really high-tech applications. And it's something we try to tackle in our work a little bit, to get away from just the generic concept of what you do to really the very, very specific knowledge of the practice. Just one quick example, we look at mulch in farming, and really low-tech thing, yeah? You mulch, you put mulch on your plants, and it stops water from evaporating, and it gives nutrients, and this really low-tech, really simple thing. But when we really started digging into it, you can just mulch, or you can mulch with a specific recipe of leaves that were harvested at a very specific time, the first sign of yellowing on the plant, that were mulched to a specific depth and then added to at a specific time later and managed to be pulled back when the rains come and put them back. And just that difference between mulching and mulching with this really specific knowledge, we found an 11-fold difference in the amount of nitrogen fixation that was occurring in this practice. And I think that's the difference between thinking of these things as concepts and thinking of them as applicable technologies. That when you have that knowledge that goes with it, it becomes a concept to something that really makes a big impact. And so is an 11-fold difference in nitrogen a big deal? And there's just the paper I read the other day that followed a loaf of wheat bread from farm to table to consumption and all the greenhouse gas emissions associated with that loaf of bread. And of everything that happens, the tractors and the transportation and the processing and the storage and all of that, 43% of the entire emissions of that loaf of bread comes from nitrogen fertilizer. And so these really simple, seemingly simple concepts of mulching, if we can combine that with the really high-tech knowledge that goes with it, you could have taken a 20% slice out of that whole greenhouse gas emissions associated with that bread through a very simple, though knowledge-intensive pathway. So it's kind of one of the big points I wanted to make. Going towards the end of the panel, some of the things have been covered. But yeah, another part of our work, is just to ask, what is it we want? What is it we value? And how do we get there? And how do we measure it? And some people have already touched on that system, and it's not a new concept. People are already slamming GDP. It's not a good metric, measuring our productivity, or our jobs, like a war can make GDP go up. A sickness can make GDP go up. But what is it we really, GDP is just a measure of our ability to reach the goals that we actually want to reach. And so I think a foundation of these concepts is what is the goals we actually want to reach, which I think Aurora highlighted in a really, really powerful way. That is the goal, one goal anyway, that we all need to get there together. And so starting these conversations with that foundation of what are our values, what are we actually trying to really accomplish, is a key thing. So that will turn it over to our final.
Noah Mahalo Nui, I just want to say that your thoughts remind me of Pakukui, the whole, what we called in our ancient times, the Hamakua lands where Kala was born, Pakukui, so Kukui, as a beloved mulch. That is something for us to dive into scientifically. Yeah, you guys? Mahalo nui no ko ike kupuna. Mahalo nui. Tim?
Mahalo. Well, as some of you might guess, it's kind of humbling to be up here. And I know some of my students will say, you're never humble, you can't be humble, but the fact is it's inherent and ingrained in many ways. And the humbling aspect in particular is my incompetence to be able to really dialogue with some of the Native Hawaiian issues that I really wish I knew better because I'd lived them, but I haven't lived them. And as we looked at the reading, there was some great wording there from Dr. Herman about, yeah, but you can still contribute. And so you can still be proud. And those two words to me are really, really important in this conversation. And to me, they kind of, in a way, describe what I observe of Native Hawaiians. Humble, very much willing to work and exceed, but at the same time, at a point where they're not going to give their values away. And I hope we're all that way in many ways. And I know that I do take pride in being up here as well as being humble, and those are not contradictory. And I hope all of you take pride in the fact that you're here, that you've worked and you've pushed yourself to represent something and to be something and to try to be better at something. So when we talk about knowledge, this is the cornerstone to me, is humility. One of my favorite sayings that some have heard me mention is that from my English teacher back in undergraduate school, who said, the most educated person in the world is the one who can sit down with any other person anywhere, speak to them in their own language about what matters to them. That is wisdom. And we will never have it all. But what we have to do is try harder to have wisdom when we make decisions. To me, I think, and I'm here as a sustainability guy, and to me, sustainability has to be institutional. You mentioned it, I think, was it Rosie, who we can't do it one at a time. You know, we have to try to become sustainable. And that's a we, that's a collective. So when we talk specifically about knowledge and the conversation about meetings of wisdom and what we have here, there's a couple of things that come to mind for me. In the first place, locally, we understand because it comes in front of us all the time. There's Native Hawaiian tradition that brings such a rich set of understanding and skills. And then there's the rest, I'm not sure what we call it. I mean, I'm going to call it contemporary society and act like that means something. But in my understanding, Native Hawaiian society traditionally understood that it lived on islands, that these were the resources we had, and that we cannot exceed those limits because we will undermine our very existence. And that's all very key to me to understand the value of that wisdom. And that is wisdom that goes beyond researching. It's a feeling, that's a gut, that's a heart. On the other hand, contemporary society seems to have come to a place where we are saying, oh, we've exceeded some limits, and we have to change. Now, that's the real trick, I think, in so many ways. We have to change. We can't just build a society based upon what we've been doing. We have to change. And I think anybody who looks into sustainability with some credibility understands that that's a critical thing to confront and understand in a humble fashion. So that sea change is what I think sustainability is about. In my book, sustainability is intended to reflect wisdom and to exercise wisdom and to put aside some other things that maybe aren't as wise that we've replaced wisdom with in various times. So if I get more detailed, I think one of the problems we have often led ourselves to is that we tend to break things into pieces. It's called reductionism. So our knowledge is broken into pieces, our governance is broken into pieces, our approach is broken into pieces, and we end up attacking pieces without raising ourselves back up to look at the whole. And by that, we do things well on one respect and we mess something else up and we call it an unintended consequence. And that is where most unsustainability comes from. It doesn't come from people trying to be unsustainable. It comes from they're not doing their homework, not looking at the whole picture. Now, this is what systems thinking does for us. Systems, in its first level, recognizes that knowledge, as we call it, may or may not have anything to do with the way the world works. We have categories, we have disciplines, we have titles, but the world doesn't care about that. The world does stuff. And so if we rely on our category from the beginning, we are likely to miss a vital function. So now we get to this term transformative. That was coined by early sustainability researchers, somewhat radical in the way they said, we have to be transformative with our education in order to have a chance here. Transformative is hard, transformative is humbling. transformative makes you uncomfortable and unpopular sometimes, because it takes something that some people have necessarily when we change. But that word is upon us. And this is what I have hoped we get to talk about with this group, because we need leadership and we need mass to be able to have the conversation with credibility. So sustainability science, which I can represent, is a methodology, but I think it is embedded in the humility of understanding that each one of us is confined by what we call our mental model. We only know so much. And research says if there's one of us, we have one set of knowledge. If there are 8 of us, we have 40 sets, because we combine and interchange. But what if we have 1,000 of us? You know, what does it take? How do we use that knowledge properly? And it includes experts. It includes folks down the road. It includes cultural people. It includes mathematicians. It includes whatever we need to work on problems. And that is what is termed in sustainability science as transdisciplinary, not just interdisciplinary, but we can't get it just from campus. We need to get off campus. We need to talk to people and understand what matters to them. So gathering of information, meeting of the wisdom, that to me is step one in terms of what we try to do with sustainability science. Secondly is how do we organize that wisdom? How do we decide which one applies to what we're doing? And there's another concept called problem-driven approach. This is the inverse of categorization. We don't give it to the transportation department or the water department or whomever. What we say is, let's define the problem. And as my students know, that means what are the questions we need to answer about this issue. Let's work on questions. We don't need answers yet, we need questions. So we develop the questions based upon what we have in order to develop a model for how we can seek answers that are more holistic. And then third of all, whenever we come up with answers, we need to be humble enough to recognize that they will probably be wrong. That we still have learning to do once we apply, and that we'll learn more once we've implemented a change. We can take another look. And often it's not that our practice was wrong, it's that our very assumption was wrong when we put this model together. So these are the sketchy parts of how can you build a model. But notice that this focuses not on the outcomes, not on the projects, not on the checklist. If we do those things ahead of time, we're assuming we're right about something. If, on the other hand, we take the problem and try to ask the questions, we have the opportunity to engage in things that we hadn't thought of. We have right now, Matt mentioned net zero as a conversation. Well, the truth is, Maui is like this far from saying we can say we're net zero. But we had another conversation about that with the chancellor and some others just last week. And we said, what does net zero mean? And, you know, the truth is, in the world, we use terms like that. We use net zero for energy. We use net zero for waste. There's no such thing in either in terms of net zero impact. So the question is, what are you trying to get to? What is it you're trying to attain? And hopefully the answer is the one that we got from a video that we saw 3 years ago from the Native Hawaiian family who was a salt mining group. And the woman was asked, what is sustainability? And she said, we just need the chance to do the best we can. Reflecting back on ourselves, did we do the best we could? Did we look? Did we ask? Did we reach out before we decided to jump to something? And did we do it for the right reasons? So, you know, there are more details that I think we can fill in and maybe get to as we go down the road on this. But it is the first question, what does it mean to have traditional Hawaiian knowledge as an asset? Go live somewhere else. You don't have that asset in most places, any place. Have the capacity to understand what people have been through in terms of living in a confined, limited ecosystem. In terms of sustainability, it is one of the most fantastic assets there are because experiences were had and knowledge was gained. So now we need to just learn the translation. And of course, that's not always easy either. I'm sure it's not even easy for some contemporary Hawaiians trying to figure out what was going on back then. We're all folks trying to do it right and trying to understand. So we have work cut out for us. But you know what? I may be an alarmist. I mean, the question about climate change, no, we're not doing enough. Are we going to accept it? I don't accept it yet. I just don't. We don't know what the outcome is going to be of climate change. Every time we get a new assessment, it's worse than we thought. How can we adapt when we know things continue to change? You can only adapt when you know what something is going to be. So in my book, the sustainability answer there is we should be out pushing to have people do more quickly. If we can go to the moon in 10 years, by God, we can have renewable energy in a lot less time than that, because it's all there.
Nice.
But anyway, that's just me being an alarmist, I understand. But the truth is, this is a global issue. Some things are out of our control, but at the same time, with the assets that we have, with the commitment that we have that's traditional, there's an opportunity to be a world leader right here, no doubt in my mind. I've studied in other continents, I've been in other places. I know that we have a more advanced opportunity if we commit ourselves to what is the task. And the task is, how are we going to be more sustainable in 2 years, in 5 years, now? You know, it can't be doing things that sound nice, doing things that promote something in the way of a goal but don't really tell us how to do it. We've got to design systems and processes now to start change, because we don't have time. And that means going backwards maybe some way to some people. Okay, maybe we were smarter at some time before. That may be just what we have to deal with. So at any rate, don't get me worked up. My students know that. So thank you.
Mahalo, mahalo nui. Woo. The idea that the future has an ancient heart is actually known to us. The future has an ancient heart. This is what this panel is about. We're trying to bring to you the concept that the future has an ancient heart, so that we're not being nostalgic, we're being actually very practical in our combination of whole thinking, systems thinking, integrative thinking. These are actually synonyms for the mo'o. These are synonyms for continuity. These are synonyms for indigeneity. So Albie, Miles, can you head in there? And we're going to ask the questions, and then we'll have Albie, if you can just start with the third question: what impedes transformative change at the university, and how can we do better? How can we do better, Albie? Okay, gang, have a good conversation. Way to go, Tim. Mahalo nui.
Is this on? All right. What impedes transformative change at the University of Hawaii, and how could we do better? I think my initial response to that is we need to be developing programs that are highly interdisciplinary, if not transdisciplinary in nature. The problems that we face in contemporary society are highly complex. They're interrelated socio-ecological, political phenomena like climate change. And there's no single disciplinary solution to some of the complex problems that we face. So I think one key step is transforming the way that we do higher education programming so that it is more multidisciplinary, if not transdisciplinary. It's problem-based, and we're training people with real-life skills to tackle real-world problems while integrating our ecological and social theory into the process of learning. So we need to be reorienting rather than indulging, often as we do in higher education, deeply in theory. We need to reorient our model toward addressing real-world problems and backfilling, if you will, theoretical understandings as we go about solving real-world problems. So that's my initial take. Okay.
Well, I had a couple thoughts, and I was joking with Matt last night, like what impedes transformative change at the University of Hawaii. So, I mean, I kind of grew up at UH, and I've read, you know, like who runs the university, and I've worked at the CCs. And so from my view, I mean, a lot of it is actually quite simple, and it's just a lack of trust a lot of times, and relationships, and like people not understanding each other. When I worked at the CCs, we worked on a 6-campus collaboration, and like, oh my gosh, the CCs are really frustrated with Manu because you get seen as a second-class institution. And this like budgeting issue, I mean, and it's like, can we just I don't know, everybody's of age. Can we just drink beer together? Like, I mean, like, but those relationships really hold us back. And I think what I valued when I worked at the CCs was working on a grant called the Pre-Engineering Education Collaboration. It was also known locally as IKE, Indigenous Knowledge and Engineering. Thanks, Aaron Hanai, I see people, and Bob Franco. But like, we tried to work as a system, and it was really eye-opening, and what helped as a Hawaiian was having these Hawaiian networks, because I knew everybody in the NHSS at every campus, and we would like help each other out and pass students back and forth. And so when students took chemistry at Windward and physics at KCC and math at LCC, like, we all kind of kept an eye on it, and actually it didn't cost any more money, but we worked really effectively. And I wish, anyways, I'll stop talking and let somebody else answer, but I think relationships could actually help a lot.
Let me say something that was really transformative for me. When I taught in high school and middle school, there was a young lady who came to me and said, "I wish I could cut out the part of me that's Hawaiian." And I said, "What causes such self-loathing?" And that actually led me to my doctorate. But then there was another transformative time. And that was when I ran out of gas driving my VW bus in Waimanalo, because I was living in Kaneohe and teaching at Kaiser. And there I am, and a Hawaiian family comes up and says, "Hey, you look like you're in trouble." I said, "Yeah, I ran out of gas." And said, we'll help you. I said, yeah, I really appreciate it. I'll pay you for it. He said, no, never mind. And so I went home. And then another time, I was teaching at a school I will not name. And I had just come back from India, so there was a whole bunch of things that were in my mind about social class. And I'm walking my students. Of course, because I'd come back in March, they gave me the class that the teacher had quit, right? So I'm walking with them from the library back to class. And they look inside the class, and one kid says to me, "Hey, must be smart class, all Japs." So, there's these three things, plus there's a whole bunch of other stuff. And then, I wind up teaching at Kaiser, and the principal asks me, "Why don't you start AP Chemistry?" I said, "Yeah, sure." She says, "No money, but you do it." So we did it, and we won a bunch of awards. But what was always in my mind was, what is wrong with the system? And so I pulled all the documents. I went through everybody's courses. And I could see that in terms of ethnicity, whatever I could do as a high school teacher was not going to work, because it was done further down. So this whole thing on institutional racism was pretty clearly there. And so that's what set my track. So how do you break that? And it's really by getting people to talk together, to respect each other, and to flatten lines of communication and to network. If we don't respect each other, it doesn't matter how I dress, so, it's like how anybody dresses, whether they're sleeping on the beach. Everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has a slice of wisdom, maybe plenty slices of wisdom. And so you got to be kind of old to get above the grass. You got to be a little bit older, because, then now when I carry bags out, they say, Auntie, you need help to the car. So you get a little bit of respect that way. So I'm going to wind it up with this. When I was about 6 years old, maybe 10, I climbed up in a mango tree that my dad, who was a sitar guy, he used to graft different kinds of things together. So one side was a Chinese mango and one side was Indian mango. But I was up on the side, and I carved into the bark the date, because I could feel time rushing past me. But I didn't know what to do with these understandings. As I got older, I actually envisioned myself rising out of a box and being able to see beyond the sides of the box. If we enable people to do that, we ask people to do that, and we ask them to communicate what they see outside the box, I think we'd be in better shape.
Okay, I'm ready to tell my story. All right, it riffs off of Pauline's also, and I think we do have the recipe for solving some of these problems. It also kind of touches on what Aurora said. The story I'm going to tell has to do with my very first faculty meeting when I came home, 2013, in the Department of Oceanography, and I get into the room and this older Haole faculty member, who shall remain unnamed, says, "Rosie, we're so glad to have you." And I said, "Oh, wow, thanks, why?" And he said, "Well, maybe you can help us figure out how to better communicate with our local students." And I was thinking, gee, I've been gone for 17 years. You've been here for 17 years. How come you're still having this problem? You know, and so I think one of the easy wins is to begin to break down the barriers between the faculty and their students, and I mean the local students, and understanding who they are. And I think that there's a lot of stereotyping among the faculty about who our students are. You know, we are, at least at Manoa, we're a commuter campus. You know, I hear so much from the faculty in terms of, you know, our students are distracted, when in reality, what the reality is they're not distracted. They're like extraordinary multitaskers who are balancing caring for ohana and working. And I think that if we build that in, and it builds onto the last speaker's idea that if we have humility about our knowledge, and if we have the willingness to learn about the historical things that happened to our people, not just the Native Hawaiians, the immigrants, the plantation workers who came here and made Hawaii their home, if we understand that, I think that we would be more willing to be more open to all of the different solutions that are in front of us. So to me, I think that there is a lot of institutional barriers as it is, but I think that, you know, simple cultural competency, as it begins with our faculty, can do a lot to advance our ability to be open to these solutions.
Mahalo. Can you come up here? I just accidentally. Hey, gang, there's a lot of questions that the audience has asked, and I accidentally just zapped it out of there. But
Can I add one more, Rosie?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, not just faculty, but just all around. Like within graduate students, when I look at my peers and they want to learn, but they don't have the opportunities within administrators, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to better understand each other and kind of reduce the animosity.
Mahalo. Here's a question from the audience. Can someone field this? How do we get our faculty and students to do more sustainability innovations and create more breakthrough businesses in Hawaii? Who wants to take that one? How to create an energy of movement within our places. Noah?
I mean, I don't have a great solution, but I mean, I've just been at Manoa for a year and a half so far, and I mean, one of the things that really struck me was the really low bar a lot of professors want to hold for the students and want to let them get away with not pushing themselves more. And that's something that I think might just be our department. We had a very, very, very old department as far as who is in there. And we've recently had a lot of young faculty come in and trying to shift that culture a little bit. But, envisioning better futures for our students. I feel like my department was training students to go be farm workers, like that's the best you can do coming out of here. This is a party surf school, and, we're gonna find you a menial job at and that's not the bar or the goal that as a whole the university should be setting. And obviously you can't generalize. Every professor is an individual, and there's some really awesome, amazing professors, but I would like to see us stop, settling. We should always be thinking, how do we make our UH campus is the best in the nation or the world, or we should be aiming for the stars. And I feel like a lot of people aren't doing that. We're getting lazy, and we can't do that,
I think that question is embedded in deconstructing the inevitability of capitalism, because we do want farmers. We want high-level, coherent, hardworking, cultural, expansive farmers. We do. But how do we connect that into the system that doesn't make farming sustainable? So these questions that you're trying to answer are multifaceted and multi-dimensioned. So I want to ask one more question here as we begin to close. From the audience, what core values will inform our measurements? I love the perception of values and measurements. So each of you, what core values can inform our measurements? There we go. Have fun.
Well, I'm going to go back to the word humility. We think we're pretty cool. We are. But the truth is, what a fine mess we've got ourselves into in many ways, too. And I think that in our society, if I'll use that term kind of loosely, and I'm talking from my perspective now. You understand, I don't know. I'm not embedded with some of the values that maybe some of you folks grew up with. But the point is, we've taken things for granted a lot. We have driven to look at prosperity as something separate from the world we live in, I think, sometimes. And in doing so, I think we've created problems ourselves. Now, this is actually the good news, though. When we talk about sustainability, if you took the people out of the world would be sustainable, right? So we made the mess, but we can fix the mess without that much difficulty if we decide that's our priority. So, it's not that simple, obviously, but it's what is appropriate is for us to take a look at it from a values base and to try to understand how to work a better. I lost track of that primary question, so I'm wondering. But go ahead.
Yes, that's it. Thank you, Pauline.
Okay. Could I talk about metaphors?
Nice.
When we think about, and I'm going to say these in English, okay? So I want you to think about 3 metaphors. He who dies with the most toys wins.
Yep.
The ocean is our refrigerator. The land is the chief. Man is the servant. 3 metaphors.
Which one doesn't belong? I like that game.
Okay, I'm gonna try and go next. My value is momona, which means abundance. And I think that we cannot be satisfied with just survival. We have to look for abundance. And I just participated earlier this week in the National Climate Assessment Report for, I guess it's the US climate report. It's the US version of the IPCC report. And the thing that we kept coming back to was the idea that, for most ecological science, you're on this metrics of, we want to achieve, we have this limit of this minimum species limit so that they're reproducible. But for practitioners, we want the amount so that we can harvest. And implicit within that is, of course, there's this ability of that species to reproduce, but it's more than that. It's more momona than that for that particular male ola. It's that we have enough that we can actually harvest and sustain our practice. Like there's enough that we can harvest and we can make kahili. We can gather, and we can make, feather capes. We can, so there's enough of like the native bird population, for example. And so that's what I think to me is important in this game is achieving aina momona and kai momona.
I think related to the idea of what are measures of success in terms of
and the values therein.
And the values therein. I think that there's a perfect opportunity to integrate Hawaiian values and Hawaiian knowledge in the context of this movement toward quote unquote sustainability, and that is, if I understand it correctly, the Makahiki festival is one of the key indicators of success of the community. It was the health of the land and the health of the people. we can measure that. We can measure that empirically. And so I think that if we're going to have measures of success beyond academic standards and students performing well, I think the institution, the success of the institution should be measured against to what degree are we precipitating the necessary social, political, ecological change where the health of the people and the health of the land is enhanced.
Nice. Mahalo nui. Aurora?
So who can throw the best party? Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, what's on my mind is maybe kuleana, and I don't know how you measure that, but like if within our students we can instill a sense of kuleana, and the way I think about it is it's individual and collective responsibility. If I need to translate it to modern US politics, it's civic, a sense of understanding how the I fits in the we. Because I think that's kind of where, that's an important first step. So kuleana or I don't know the translation, but like the civic responsibility.
Okay, mahalo. Is that Noah?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was thinking along those lines of really like who and what do you care for?
Yeah.
I mean, we want to grow, engage citizens who are out there caring for things. And like Rosie said, a lot of these students are balancing a lot of different things that they are caring for. They are caring for an ohana, for loved ones, they're caring for little sections of land and caring for communities and things like that. And again, I'm not sure how we get to measuring those things. I'm not sure how to get to the rubrics of what they are. But at the same time, you also know it when you see it, So something that might be difficult to institutionalize, but at the same time, I think has an undeniable core truth to it that pretty much everyone knows it. We know who the engaged people who are out there doing good, and we know the ones who are out causing trouble. It kind of goes back to Aurora's point too of communication. When you have strong, healthy communities that are communicating with each other, it's also really easy to identify, those both the people who are excelling and the ones who are causing trouble. But yeah, how we do that in an institution and in the universities, that's maybe for the summit to figure out.
That's the plan, everybody. Everyone take a deep breath, and I want to close with the idea that these are konohiki. Konohiki in modern times, we grew up with the idea that konohiki were our tax collectors. I always felt a little bit bummed by that idea. And then I got a little bit more knowledgeable, and then I started calling us party planners. I preferred that. But last week, Dr. Emelani Case from Waimea, we had lunch together, and she said an amazing thing that she had learned. That, of course, I love that hiki is can do, yeah? So konohiki, the class of people that joins the needs of the Aina and the vision that Maka'ainana have with Ali'i, get the job done with everybody. She said that the konohiki stands for to invite willingness. Okay, everybody? To invite willingness. That energetic field connects with what every single person has been saying for the last hour. Trust, humility, awareness, commitment. These are the threads that have inspired me to be of service to our communities. So to invite willingness, you all said yes, willingly. And that energy then is able to amplify in its own accord. And this is why the Dalai Lama loves to come to Hawaii. Why? Because he says, gratitude is our attitude. And when you make aloha the center of your intelligence, everything changes. It really does. It really does. And that's why you have been given the Ole Mahalo on your table, We're going to learn this together again and again, and we're going to sing our gratitude. What I learned from UPIC elder Oscar Quagley, one time we were at a science, there was only about 15, and they asked, you know, all these kupuna, please can you bless the food? And he's a UPIC kupuna, uahala. And he laughed and he giggled in a kupuna kind way. We thought we insulted him, like, Uncle, please forgive us, what do we say? He says, oh my, when we prepare our food, every act is an act of beauty. Every presentation is grace. Everything is done in beauty. So we don't bless the food blesses us. Isn't that beautiful? Now that's where the mo'o lives. Let our food bless us, because Terry and the gang over at Ma'o really, really worked beautifully so that you can enjoy your lunch. So we are going to stand, and while we thank our panel, prepare to sing the Oli Mahalo on your table. Mahalo panel. Bravo! Is everyone ready? Makau.
Last year was the first year that we launched this program, and the President's Green Initiative Awards really designed to unleash and support the creative, innovative forces that our students bring to our campuses. So one of the questions earlier in to the panelists was, how can we support our students to create more innovation and enterprises that advance sustainability? And the President's Green Initiative Awards is designed to do exactly that. So it was the inaugural launch last year, and we gave two $10,000 prizes to student groups to lead the implementation of a sustainability project at their campus. So students from Leeward have created a short video about what they put together. So sit back and enjoy.
I guess I really got involved when I went to the Sustainability Summit last year. There was a bunch of projects that people were working on, and one was from Leeward, and it was about converting all of the school's food waste into compost. And then later on, they won. You know, they won the President's Green Initiative. It's like kind of a huge deal, right?
So you can choose to view the program as a recycling program, or you can choose to see it as a collaboration between stakeholders, a reclamation of indigenous Ike and sciences, and real green and information-based workforce development.
So actually created a couple labs that match with the system. So we have labs on vermicomposting, and also the compost itself, we get to turn around and use it in the plots and grow some really awesome plants. So
there's also this awareness that sustainability is being taken seriously on campus, that President Lassner's wishes are actually being fulfilled even just in the small steps that we are taking. We're moving in that direction. Hopefully one day we can get there, and just having the conversation about saving your food scraps is a step in the right direction.
Josh, I see you hanging out there. Yeah, there you go, right on. Okay, the second award last year, we're actually going to do a little bit of an unveiling, I guess, today. And I'll let Joey explain for himself what he's up to with his rescaling urbanism projects. Joey, you want to come up and share a little bit about what you've been up to since winning the President's Green Awards last year?
All right, hello. Aloha. I'm Joey Valenti, and this is now the Albizia project. Before I begin, I'd first like to acknowledge Office of Sustainability for presenting me with the hardest task so far, summing up this project, this last year of the project in 3 minutes. Thank you. But really, thank you. I'm truly thankful for what you guys have done, all the support you've provided so far on this journey. And speaking of mahalos, I'd also like to point out, since receiving the award, I've since had the support multiply to all of these sectors and departments that are in and around UH. And for those not familiar, this idea developed on current social and ecological issues that we are facing globally, more specifically right here on our Hawaiian Islands. So the approach not only had the intent of bringing dignity back into our community, but it was also a response to the threats of Hawaii's precious ecosystems. No sound. But that's where Albizia came in. And from there I developed a process that could turn a low value, as you know, invasive species into a pragmatic solution. One that can open an avenue to help two different worlds. And that required reaching beyond conventional systems. And I took new technologies in digital fabrication, intersected that with more process-based systems, and tied in innovative materials. So following the award, the School of Architecture at UH Manoa offered a position that matched the initial funding. And that allowed me to develop the laminated panel system and build models as well as full-scale specimens. And we collaborated with College of Engineering, Dr. Ian Robertson, and we did tests in their lab. And these are some of the specimens before tested to failure at full scale. And the above image you see was a tension test, and below was a beam test. And by the second phase, to simplify what you're seeing here, we achieved passing structural results for all the above. So then we went on to hunt for Albizia around Oahu and found trees coming down off the H2 and more off from Schofield Army Base. And it didn't take much convincing for them to donate. And then we had all the material delivered to Waimanalo Wood, where we've teamed up to do the milling. And it's quite the upgrade since my first log at Lion Arboretum, where we had a 2-man Alaskan sawmill, to a 4-man team, where we have quickly milled up wood with the wood miser. So we've got the lumber drying, and some recent news, Hawaii Housing Finance Development Corporation has contracted with us and provided funding to build this first prototype at full scale. Thank you. So we've pushed the envelope of design for a structure inspired by indigenous Pacific Island architecture that utilizes passive design strategies, and it designed out conventional systems to be almost entirely built out of Albizia. And now we're working with UHWO on potential sites to temporarily exhibit this prototype. And the most exciting news, we've recently teamed up with Honolulu Community College and their carpentry department to create a summer course, and students will help us build this. So that's a little tip on what you're about to see. The reveal. So this is the latest model of what we'll be building at full scale. And from here, I'd like to invite you all to join us to the launch party when the full-scale prototype is completed and revealed. And you can join the mailing list at thealbiziaproject.com, where we've just got updated to keep you in the loop on what's going on and where this project will go forward. And you can also find us at cleared. But on Instagram at the Albizia Project. Somewhere in there. There it is. Yep. Thank you.
This meeting of wisdoms, anybody? That's pretty cool. So, both of those projects were only possible with the support of our sponsors last year that helped us launch that program, and they had so much fun with us on that journey that they decided to sponsor us again and help us out. So, mahalo nui loa. What's interesting is that I know that Joey has been able to leverage the initial $10,000 award to at least a 4x return in matching. That's just in cash, not including all of the other in-kind. It would probably be closer to 10x plus if we were to factor all of those things. He's moving heavy equipment and having fun on big semi-trailers and whatnot. And the LCC team similarly was able to leverage that efforts into a institutionalized student sustainability coordinator position. So well done. It just really illustrates how with a little bit of seed funding, we can really start to unleash this creativity. In addition to our gold sponsors this year, we would also like to recognize Hawaii Energy and Train Building Advantage, who supported us with helping to make the student portion and the strategic energy management portion of the summit as well. I'd like to invite our president to the stage so that he can share a few thoughts from his perspective about all of these shenanigans. So welcome to the stage, President David Lassner.
Thanks, Matt. Well, it's great to be here again, and I guess I should admit that even though they're called the President's Awards, I have very little to do with them other than to be incredibly proud of the work you guys are doing. One of the reasons I love coming to this event is I don't know of anything else we do in the university that pulls people together the way this has. And I really want to thank Matt and the Office of Sustainability team for creating an environment that brings together students, faculty, and staff from all 10 campuses and the UH system to work together on something that you're all passionate about and that is so important to the university and to Hawaii. It is, you know, as I listened, I caught the tail end of the wisdom panel. But when I think about issues of you all are living it. So just thank you so much for your commitment and passion to moving us forward. Except for there's no beer. I don't know. I was kind of looking at that. We'll work on that next year. Yeah, we'll have the President's Beer Award. How's that? So Matt told me about 19 minutes ago that he had left 15 minutes for me to speak. And I'm not going to use all that, but I was thinking, so how many of you were here last year? Most of you, I think. So I shared with you what I was then calling my epiphany, that all of these, I was working on all of these activities that were disconnected. So we had the partnership with Kamehameha Schools, we had the Promise to Children, working with the Worldwide Voyage and the Polynesian Voyaging Society and Nainoa. We had our sustainability initiative, my Hawaii Papa'okeao, how to become a model indigenous serving university. And that one evening when I was sitting in a corner of a room with Nainoa Thompson and Kathy Matayoshi from the DOE, it suddenly came to me that all of this is one thing, and I was not treating this as 4 separate projects, was not going to put me in the right place, and as the leader, it wasn't going to put the university in the right place. So I'm just going to share with you something that I got to do this summer. This is like, they were asking me about it at the table, but this is probably the coolest thing I got to do as president. I've been doing this for 3.5 years, but I got to spend 3 weeks as a crew member on the Hokulea. Everybody, are any crew members here? Any like real crew members? Okay, so I can make this whole thing up and nobody will know. No. So when I got invited, obviously I didn't go through the whole crew training that everybody does, but the first thing they asked me was they gave me the fitness test assignment that I should be prepared to do. So 10 pull-ups, which I hadn't done probably since 4th grade. Let's see, swim a mile in an hour and a half. So I had done that as a Boy Scout, so I was pretty sure I could swim a mile. Run a mile in 15 minutes. So other than the fact that I could barely run at all, the 15 minutes isn't that hard. So I kind of built up my cardio a little to do the running thing. And then they said you have to do 10 tricep dips, which I had never heard of before. So some of you will know what those are. I got the guys at the weight room. This was during the off season and they weren't busy with teams. So they helped me work out for like 2 or 3 months, which was kind of fun. And I had no idea what a science it actually is to build up the certain muscle groups that you need. I got all ready to go, and my leg was Washington, D.C. to New York. So this was not open sailing, but what was cool was the community engagement as well as the time actually on the Hokulea with the crew. So we started in Washington, D.C. There's a lei draping of the Kamehameha statue every year at Kamehameha Day, and they actually, by an act of Congress, they close the Capitol, or they open the Capitol, it's on a Sunday, they open it up special just for the Hawaii gang. So this is all the people, either UH alumni, Hawaiians, people from Hawaii, people who have developed an affinity for Hawaii, they all get together. It's one of the major events about Hawaii in the Washington, D.C. area. And because the Hokulea was there, it was a really big deal. Hundreds of people, halau, musicians, and everybody was really excited about the crew being there. And so that was awesome. And then we quietly went up and we also draped the lei of, so Kamehameha is in this huge room in the, where you would eat in the cafeteria, just outside the cafeteria of the Capitol downstairs, because it's so heavy. That's like one of the few places they can put him. And then we also went off, and Father Damien is off in a hallway somewhere, so we also honored him as well. And we had parties at the Botanic Garden, and then kind of a backyard party with music and dance at someone's home. And then we took off from the Washington Canoe Club, and it was kind of cool. The journey was down the Potomac River, up the Chesapeake Bay, down the Delaware Bay, and then around New Jersey, the bottom of New Jersey, and then on the Atlantic Ocean and into New York Harbor. So for me, what was particularly special, so I guess everybody comes from somewhere. My grandparents are immigrants. They all came over from Eastern Europe, where if you've ever seen Fiddler on the Roof, that's sort of the kind of life my grandparents were living in Eastern Europe. And they got out before the Holocaust. They lost relatives during World War II there. But they came in through New York Harbor. They were processed in Ellis Island. So it was really pretty cool for me personally to come into New York Harbor on the Hokulea, Ellis Island, Statue of Liberty. You know, this is like 110 years after my grandparents made that journey from the other side of the world. The celebrations that we had with people throughout were just amazing. So I was actually only on the water maybe 5 days, and I'll say a little bit about the time on the canoe because it is pretty special. But we spent a lot of time, and if you follow the blogs or, you know, I encourage you, if you just go to hokulea.com, you can see the stories from the crew members. But what is really amazing is Nainoa made a couple of decisions that I think are pretty remarkable. One was everywhere that the canoe goes, he asks permission of the indigenous people to land. And so in New York Harbor, we actually got in and the welcome ceremony was on Manhattan. I will tell you to make schedule and deal with weather, it's a little bit staged. So we were actually in New York a couple days earlier, and then we sort of did the ceremonial, you know, welcome, and the weather was not very cooperative, to be honest. But several Native American tribes from the region, they actually paddled in on canoes, and many of them, they said they hadn't, it was the first time in a canoe for some of them that they had been that inspired by the Hokulea coming to visit that they revisited their own traditions. We were welcomed with their chants and dances. In one case, I mean, I'm just struck, one of the chiefs of one of the tribes is greeting us in this like really deep Brooklyn accent, if you've heard it. It's pretty funny. So it's they're, you know, they're part of their society, but it was very moving. They basically said nobody has ever asked permission to land here for 400 years. And as many in Hawaii, to them, that is still their island. So we ended up in New York, and this was a 3-week expedition entirety for me. And the Va'a then went up the Hudson River and visited many more tribes along the way, and then came back down, and you're probably all familiar in following it. So I'll just say a little bit about life on the canoe. We had about 12 people, and it was a mix of very experienced people who had been crew members, captains, and others from the 70s, and then young people in their 20s. And I would say one of Nainoa's real passions about this is using this voyage to train the next generation of navigators, captains, crew members, and voyagers. And if you saw, I think the really important thing that just happened, if you were following the leg from the Galapagos to Rapa Nui that just concluded, that there were 4 apprentice navigators who had never navigated alone before, it's a pretty small target if you look at a map. And so their success in working together to find Rapa Nui, or just pull it from the sea is the metaphor that's used, is really pretty amazing. And now they're continuing on to Pitcairn Island and Tahiti and Tapu Tapu Atea at Raiatea, and I'm going to go down next month and meet them for a week again. That'll be fun. So life on the canoe, we had about 12 people. I knew a couple of them, but not well. They were very welcoming, and I'll just say that I appreciated this. I could just imagine a bunch of people finding out that the president of UH is going to be on your crew, and they just go, "Oh my God, what is that going to be?" So I try to, do my part. I'm not a serious sailor or anything, but I do know how to wash dishes and things like that. So you sleep in the hull. That's all true. You're on a 2 foot by 6 foot. It's basically a piece of plywood with foam on it. I'm a backpacker by my background, so it's much more comfortable than many of the places I slept in a tent with rocks under me and all that kind of stuff. We cook on, it's basically a Coleman 2-burner stove. We have a designated cook. We're provisioned pretty well. There's a captain, and because we were going, and it was Nainoa for our leg, so he was making all of the decisions about when we could go. And mostly we were dealing with weather. There was a hurricane on the East Coast at the time we were there. It was south, but he was pretty worried about that. And we worked in shifts. So I had the 5 to 10 a.m. and p.m. shift. We had 3 of us who were on duty. And we were responsible for basically the health and safety of the canoe, alerting anybody of anything that needed to be known, keeping on track. We were going pretty much all the time when there was good weather, so essentially it's 4 to 5 hours of work. Then you pass off to the next watch. We had 3 of us on my watch. Billy Richards was my watch captain, who's on the first leg in 1976 to Tahiti. And then 8 hours, you better sleep a little bit in there, you better eat a little bit in there, and then you're back on again for the next time around. Everybody was very collaborative. People were patient with me and taught me. I learned a bunch of knots. I learned more about the canoe and sailing than I ever imagined. And I would say the camaraderie, the collaboration, and the passion for what everybody was doing was really inspiring, and it did for me to come back to where I started. It pulled together the threads of what I hope we can achieve together for the University of Hawaii and the people of Hawaii. So thank you for humoring me with my small story, and on with the show.
Do you want to take your call? Fantastic. Okay, so if you are announced for an award, please come up to your right of the room, and then we will have our photographer who will be directing the show here, so that we can capture everything. And before we make the big announcements, yes, we would again like to recognize the Hawaiian Electric Companies and Johnson Controls for their very generous support. So, let's see, should we do a drum roll? For the 2017 Green Project Implementation Award, the Hawaiian Electric Green Project Implementation Award goes to the Waste Sustainability Initiative through vermicomposting and composting program at UHWO. Alexis Stubbs. Alexis. Oh, I'm a horrible MC. I forgot to invite our sponsors to the stage so that we could participate in said proceedings. So while Alexis is coming up, yes, this is Tain Sekimura, who's Senior Vice President and CFO of Hawaiian Electric Company. And Elaine Fong from Johnson Controls. Elaine is the Honolulu branch manager. So that's $10,000 to go and do awesome things with vermicomposting and food waste on your campus. Okay, so the next award is the Johnson Controls Green Project Implementation Award winner. Drum roll, please. And this goes to the Sustainable Food Production at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, Madeline Gumbrecht. Congratulations, Madeline. There appears to be a healthy obsession with food waste. One more. Right on, right on. Congratulations, you guys. $10,000 to implement your project on campus this year. You guys got some work ahead. Okay, this year we have a new category. So we have 2 honorable mentions. So this next one is for the Johnson Controls Green Project Implementation honorable mention, and this comes along with a $1,000 award to a really innovative, sustainable art conservation project. And I apologize in advance if I butcher the pronunciation. The Na'au Wisdom Project Award goes to Sterling Snyder from Kauai Community College. $1,000. Our judges were pretty impressed by the originality of a submission for an art and conservation project in a Sustainability Green Awards program.
That's weird.
So the next honorable mention for the Hawaiian Electric Company's Green Project Implementation honorable mention award goes to Project Ama Ama at UH Manoa, Donna Sweetie Kuehu. Congratulations. And so this is also a $1,000 award to support implementation of Sweetie's project. And then we have another new category, and I'm going to call these students together. They both get an special recognition award. One to a project named Addressing Food Insecurity at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. That's Janelle Watkins. And the second one goes to the Choose to Reuse program at UHWO, submitted by Zoe Whitney. Come on down and receive your special recognition award. There's a lot of activity going to be going on over the next year at Hilo. There you go. And it was so interesting how the awards, there's so many food related, and then we're here at this campus, and and there's no way that you can plan that. I don't know how that happens. Yes, props to our women, our strong, empowered women. Thank you. President, you're doing really well up there holding your ground with all of those empowered women. Okay, so the next category of awards is the Green Student Leader Awards category. The first, and this year's a little different. So we had the same category last year. This year, we decided we wanted to recognize more students. So these are $1,000 cash awards that allow us to recognize and support more than one student. And the first series of Green Student Leader Awards is presented by Hawaiian Electric Companies. I'm going to read all 4 awards, and if you hear your name, please come forth, and then we can hold our applause until they're all up on stage. So the first, drum roll please, Green Student Leader Award from Hawaiian Electric Companies goes to Jenna Harvey at Palamanui campus for leadership in reforestation and trail restoration projects, and your commitment to team. Jenna's actually unable to attend, so she sent, so she sent her friend and colleague, student colleague at her campus. Kayla, thank you. The second Hawaiian Electric Company's Green Student Leader Award goes to for pioneering the Student Sustainability Coordinator position at LCC, Mirna Rivera Vega. Come on up, Mirna. We're gonna have everybody take a photo together, so come on down. And as Mirna's making her way to the stage, for leadership in exploring the connections between sustainability, STEM, Ike Hawaii, and for his commitment to understanding and protecting our water, Joshua Lelemia Irvine from UH Manoa. And last but not least, for this awards category, for leadership and commitment to sustainability initiatives in the classroom, on campus, and in her community, returning to the stage, Zoe Whitney from UH Hilo. No, come. So I misplaced your student certificate, but we're gonna get that to you in the mail. So, yes. The 2017 Hawaiian Electric Green Student Leader Awards. Well done, you guys. The 2017 Johnson Controls Green Student Leader Awards goes to, drum roll please, the following students. For her dedication and commitment to bringing a farmer's market to Honolulu Community College, Rona Lapada. Rona. For her tireless commitment to research, service, and outreach through Hui Malama Honua, returning to the stage, who got multiple nominations from her peers, Sweetie Kuehu. And the last two are for dedication to and leadership of the UH Maui College Student Ohana for Sustainability. This is a joint award that goes to Alicia Rittenberry and Ananda Stone. Come on down. And last but not least, for leadership in coordinating and implementing campus waste reduction initiatives on their campus, the Waste Wisely team returns to the stage, and Nathan Parker, Kaylee Bradley, and Russell Tolentino for their leadership in pioneering that effort on campus. Nathan, I know you're here. It's going to be an awful lot of activity at the campuses this next 12 months. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2017 Johnson Controls Green Student Leaders. Okay, thank you so much. Couple more awards to give away, so don't go anywhere. But I would like to invite Honoka Katayama and Daniel Chinn from Alaska Airlines. Honoka received the Alaska Airlines Sustainability Scholarship this year to support her studies with the generous support of Alaska Airlines. Come to find out, Honoka also absolutely shreds on the ukulele, so if we can, anyone has a spare ukulele, maybe we can prevail on her to play us a tune. But congratulations, Honoka, and thank you very much, Daniel, for your support. Maui Electric Company has also generously supported a sustainability scholarship that I just learned was awarded to Gordine. Gordine, are you here? So stand up, Gordine, so we can see you. And thank you very much to Maui Electric. Oh, sorry, come up, we're gonna get a photo. I beg pardon. I'm a horrible MC, I don't know why they let me on the microphone. And Gordine, we were all talking story last night. I had no idea she's one of the stories. I eat Gordine. Right on. Okay. Okay, so that's the student recognition, and thank you very much to our sponsors. Congratulations, everybody. This year we did something a little bit different with the Faculty and Staff Leadership Awards. Since we were spending so much time at the campuses, we really got an interesting perspective and really wanted to acknowledge some of the really groundbreaking, innovative things that are going on out there. So we only have 3 awards in this category to give. And I can't tell you how impressive it is just to see what's going on at each campus. If UH knew what UH knows, we'd be really amazing. So for leadership in clean energy solutions at their campus, we are recognizing the entire UH Maui College Facilities Department for their innovations towards net zero energy. We've got solar and storage and, come on, Stuart. And where's Robert? Robert just stepped, there he is. Come on down. Come on, you guys. So we were fortunate to go on a tour about a month ago at Maui College. Just the sheer amount of solar that's on that campus is impressive. And then to learn what they're doing with battery storage and just their track record, they've been really pioneering people things too. Cliff, are you in the room? Cliff, you should be up here too. Come on, man. Come on. This man figured out how to have our students actively involved in the trades department with assisting to install some of that solar on the roof. So another example of different tribes on campus working together for sustainability stuff. Well done, you guys. The next award for, of course, given the theme of our conference, exploring ancestral knowledge and modern science, goes to the Ethnomathematics Institute team, Ryan Girard from Kauai Community College, Michelle Phillips, who was supposed to be here but apparently got sick, from Hawaii CC, Emily Uribe from Leeward Community College, Catherine Walker from Leeward, and of course Linda Ferruto, everyone's favorite Voyager, none of whom are here, so President Lassner, you get to take the photo that we're going to send to them. Okay, and the final award that we have to give out today for pioneering the development of sustainability curriculum, both in his department, across departments, and on his campus, and for really his commitment over the last many number of years to do this. We'd like to recognize Brian Turano from UH Manoa College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources. You know, I shared earlier, we've counted, well, actually, in February, we had 206 sustainability courses. We're now at 250. And the next question is, what do you do with all of those courses? What do they all add up to? And Brian was thinking about that like 4 or 5 years ago. So those of you who are lucky enough to stay in this room for the next session, you get to learn more about that. Thank you again, President Lassner.